This is the Crowdcrux Crowdfunding Podcast with Sal Briggman, where we cover everything you need to know to launch a successful crowdfunding campaign. We speak with proven entrepreneurs who've raised money from the crowd and want to teach you how to do the same. Stay tuned because we're about to reveal how to launch your dream project with your host, Sal Briggman.
Before we get started with this podcast episode, I want to take a second to introduce you to my friends at Fulfillrite. If you need help shipping out your Kickstarter or Indiegogo perks or rewards, Fulfillrite is the absolute best company for you. I've been working with them for a while and I can vouch for their services. They make it dead simple and take all of the headache out of shipping out all of those boxes, all of those orders to your backers and your customers. If you want to check them out, go to fulfillrite.com at FULFILLRITE.com. What up, crowdfunders? Welcome back to the Crowdfunding Demystified podcast. My name is Salvador Briggman. Thank you so much for joining me here today. And on this show, if you haven't listened to any of my other episodes, basically, we will dive in deep into the principles, into the strategies that are working right now to get funding to your Kickstarter campaign, to your crowdfunding campaign, whether you're raising money for a film project, for a theater project, for a gadget, a gizmo, something more entrepreneurial in nature. We really get into the nitty-gritty when it comes to how do you actually get traffic? How do you actually get people buying your product? How do you actually arouse curiosity? Do you build a crowd online? All that kind of stuff I aim to answer with you with these guests that I bring on, really trying to uncover these nuggets of truth that you can then apply to your own crowdfunding campaign. That's my entire desire. And the whole reason why I started this podcast is to really learn from people that are doing it right now, with things that are working today when it comes to driving the crowd to your project. In addition to this podcast, I also do a blog, which I've been writing since 2012. I have books out there on Amazon on the topic of crowdfunding. I also have a YouTube channel. One of the things that has been persistent ever since I got started is that students have always wanted a bit more personalized attention. You know, they want me to answer questions. They want my feedback on their campaign page. They want me to put together a strategy for them going into this new financial raise, all of this kind of stuff. But also, a lot of the times, just random questions come up throughout the campaigning process, and it's really difficult to find answers for them. And also just to have that certainty going into your next campaign, like, yes, I've done everything possible. I have a great strategy, making use of all of these different assets I have. Like maybe I put together a budget. This is how I should spend it. This is how many emails I need. Really just having someone verify all of that for you. So one of the things that I do offer now is coaching and consulting. So if you want to do a one-off coaching session with me, with Sal, you want my thoughts on something, you want to talk about your project and really get into how to position it for success, how to take advantage of media opportunities, whatever it is, we can discuss on that coaching call. So I put together a new form, a new sign-up process for this coaching services. And basically I'm going to go through, I'm going to ask you a few different questions about your project. I'm going to ask you to tell me a little bit about the project, also how you've created it, get into some of the backstory there, and also get a broader sense of like, what kind of funding goal are you looking to raise? What are you looking to hit here? I really need to have that contextual information in order to be as helpful for you as possible. So if you're interested in hiring me for a one-off coaching session, this is just a one session call. You don't want to enroll in any of my long-term programs. You just kind of want to pick my brain a little bit. You also want me to answer some of these questions. You can go to this link, answer those questions, and I'll get back to you ASAP. So that link is crowdcrux.com/coaching. That is crowdcrux.com/coaching. crowdcrux.com/coaching. So you go to that link, just answer some of these questions. It will literally take you 5 minutes, and then I will get back to you. And then I'll have also a lot more information going forward. So I look forward to working with you. If you do want to sign up for that, really easy to do. Just takes 5 minutes of your time. And I promise you, literally every single person that I've coached along the way has said that not only are they so grateful, but also it was a tremendous amount of value. There's tons of value setting themselves up for success and also answering some of those questions. So without further ado, let's get into today's podcast episode. I think you're going to like this one, and thank you so much for tuning in today. Tim, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Man, your Indiegogo campaign, you've raised over $500,000 from more than 200 backers, still 18 days to go. You've exceeded your goal over 200%. It's also a really neat product. So welcome to the show. Would love to talk a little bit about your product, but where are you hailing in from? Where in the world are you located?
I'm in San Francisco, California.
Nice.
Right now.
Could we just start this off maybe by talking a little bit about your product? Because it's difficult for me to describe. Maybe you could tell the listeners a little bit about that. So
it's traditionally a moped, but it actually has an electric drivetrain. So essentially what I did is I took, inspiration from mopeds from the 70s and 80s, pretty much the late 70s, and built a single frame modeled after some Austrian style mopeds and Japanese style mopeds, namely the Puch Magnum and Free Spirit and the Honda Hobbit. Mm-hmm. And I kind of combined the best of all of those and turned them into an electric style moped. And by doing that, I'm able to actually come up with multiple models, because back in the 70s and 80s, that was kind of the deal, is they would make one frame, but they could build different various styles of mopeds. So my idea was to bring back the family of mopeds, which was a step through and a top tank version, but electrify it and then put a high torque drivetrain on them so that they actually are comparable to kitted mopeds, which are, people take stock mopeds and then they make them more powerful. How did you do that? Like, do you have an engineering background, or was this like you just kind of decided, like, I saw this problem, I'm going to try and solve it? Like, how did you actually create that? So what I did is I'm an industrial designer, and I build and take things apart. I work on cars, and I actually build mopeds. So I have probably about 10 classic motorcycles, and throughout the years I've had more, but I basically, build them and sell them, and, keep some for myself. And just through that hobby, I became interested in electric transportation. And so I thought it would be kind of interesting about 3 years ago, to turn one of my frames that I had lying around into an electric vehicle. And as soon as I let other people start riding it, and even myself riding it, I was like, this is really fun to ride. And there wasn't really any other options. I mean, there are some people who are doing it, but there wasn't any like mass adoption of a hub motor in the rear wheel, and using moped parts and things like that. And so I just thought it would be interesting to go down the path and create some concepts around it. And every time I made a new concept, more and more people got excited, and more people started following my builds. So that was kind of the way I got started with it. Are these like people in San Francisco? Did you publish this online? Like, how are people finding that? So, I had an Instagram, but mainly just people, first just my close friends and people, random people from San Francisco. And then, people around the world that collect mopeds and kind of do the same hobby as myself. And there's what they call moped gangs, which are, groups of people who kind of create clubs for mopeds, and they're all around the world. And but to be clear on like what a moped is, and I think a lot of people probably think when they hear moped, they think of a scooter, like the sit-down scooter where you put your feet in front of you. This is actually more of a bicycle with pedals, but it looks more like the cross between a scooter and a motorcycle. And so there's you could call a motorized bicycle a moped, but within the moped community, there's kind of really only one type of moped, and those are the groups that have been kind of created around those styles of mopeds. And those are the people that originally kind of adopted the idea that I was doing and became fans of it and were just supporting me along the way.
Very cool. It looks awesome, man. Like, I love it. I'm just taking a look at your page, the Onyx ONYX motorbikes on Indiegogo. It looks freaking awesome. When did Indiegogo come into the picture? Like, when did you start to think about maybe crowdfunding this?
So a couple years ago, I contacted Indiegogo, and I really kind of brute forced my way into the situation. And, like, we laugh about it now, like the guys on Indiegogo that I contact, and they're still my campaign managers. But I mean, I literally, messaged Indiegogo kind of cold, and I got kind of tossed around through a bunch of people that, were just kind of trying to spin me off to, FAQs on their website. And the reason why I kept pushing is because I had an experience where I was working, as an industrial designer, I was working on a brain scanner for epilepsy patients. And that particular project, the guy was able to get an in-person meeting with someone from Indiegogo about crowdfunding his idea. And of course, his idea, if you're crowdfunding it, you're probably not buying it for yourself. You're just supporting the cause. And so I think Indiegogo was super excited, and, they met with him. I didn't really realize that. I thought that maybe Indiegogo just met with people. Mm-hmm. So I felt like I was kind of getting the short end of the stick, like, oh, here, go look at our FAQ. And so I kept pushing and pushing, like, I want to talk to someone.
Yeah.
Eventually someone called me, and there's this guy at Indiegogo. He was the senior hardware specialist at Indiegogo, and he kind of gave me some advice, and then to my surprise, he kept in touch, and he kept kind of pushing because I had showed him a couple renders, and I hadn't at the time I didn't have the prototypes built, and he just kept pushing, like, hey, when are you gonna have the prototypes? When are you gonna do this? And,
so he was really helping you along. What did he tell you, though? Like you said, he shared a tidbit of advice. What did he tell you?
He basically, I was just trying to remember. It wasn't much more than I already knew, but it was, giving me insights into how certain things run, kind of just answering a bunch of questions that I was unclear on. And it was mainly revolving around how the campaigns work. And then just the very beginning was just kind of like if they met with people, but that.
So in your words,
so I would say I know exactly what it was now that I think of it. Is I was trying to get an in-person meeting with them, and they said, okay, well, as soon as you have the prototypes, you can come meet with us, and we'll take it for a test ride.
Okay, so for them, the most important was getting that prototype so you can actually show it to people or get a sense of the functionality, in a sense.
Yeah, so I could show it to the Indiegogo team.
Okay. And I mean, you also talked about the way that campaigns work. I think that's something that, honestly, a lot of people aren't familiar with. What did you mean by that, the way that campaigns work on Indiegogo?
So I kind of wanted to know the difference between, I was a little unclear on the difference between, getting fixed funding or flexible funding. So, the fixed funding, meaning that you needed to meet your goal or you don't get any money, or flexible funding where you can take the money at any point, even if you don't meet your goal, and kind of asking what they would recommend for a product like this. And, of course, they told me fixed funding is definitely better because, your potential backers will, kind of get worried about
having all or nothing. And one of the things I wonder a lot is, I think there's sort of this duality between Kickstarter and Indiegogo because they're both great crowdfunding websites. Is there a reason you sort of gravitated more to Indiegogo than Kickstarter?
I did a Kickstarter campaign for I've been on a lot of different campaigns where I've been, I've helped from the industrial design standpoint, so from the design of the product, and maybe a little bit about, maybe with some of the videos. But I never actually ran any campaigns except for one on Kickstarter, and it was a coat rack, a very small kind of local design based off of a radio tower in San Francisco. And I did it on Kickstarter, and, I felt like, although it was a great experience, the support and being able to get in touch with anybody at Kickstarter was non-existent. And granted, it was a couple years ago, so maybe that has changed, but it just didn't really give me the feeling that I would want to go and use Kickstarter again for something that I felt like was very critical, that actually, was successful.
Yeah.
And having that extra side of support from Indiegogo, because I did reach out to Kickstarter and they never wrote me back.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that was a big red flag. It's just like, I'm not going to get the help that I need. And Indiegogo, for years, they were in contact with me.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
So, yeah.
I can see that difference there. I do think Kickstarter's gotten a little bit better, but definitely, that's more historically, quite honestly, I think how the breakdown has been. You being an industrial designer, the way that your brain works, you're able to put together these amazing prototypes and products. But I think that one of the things that a lot of people struggle with is sort of presenting that to the crowd. How did you manage to tackle that? Because I'm on your website, it looks incredible, like very well designed, very high quality. How did you tackle that piece of the equation?
Well, so before I was an industrial designer, I actually worked. I'm currently at this company right now, but so I've been working at a business called Freeboard Manufacturing. It's a skateboard company, and they've been around since the 90s. And I have, in early stage of that, I was kind of self-taught. Learned how to do Illustrator, and I learned how to do Photoshop, and eventually learned how to do, basic web design and then Flash design. And this is all kind of, in the early 2000s. And so it took me a long time, but it was a small company. It was a small startup, and it was a skateboard company. So I had a lot of freedom of expression to really just kind of explore new ideas. And, there wasn't really anyone telling me what to do. So I think that really helped me kind of build my own sort of style, but also really explore a bunch of different things. And I was really eager to learn a lot of different, styles of media.
Yeah, skills.
Yeah, a lot of different skills. And so I learned, motion graphics and of course and I also know 3D animation, and I teach it and do all that kind of stuff. But at the moment, to be able to build the Onyx campaign, I've built a lot of different websites, and I've built a lot of things for other brands and other companies. So I think I just kind of injected all that experience into this one. And also too, it's a product that I've been working on for a really long time. So I think it comes sort of pretty natural. I have a kind of an idea of like how I wanted this to look and feel, and I just kind of went with it.
You're wearing a lot of hats there.
Yeah.
Like, doing a lot. You didn't have any kind of help with this actual campaign, like anyone doing the graphics for you, making the video for you, like you pretty much ran all of this yourself?
So, I did have help with the video stuff, where as far as getting it filmed, I can't hold I can't hold the camera in two different locations. But if I was doing drone work, my friend was doing, the static shots. But yeah, I literally only had one other person help me with the video stuff. But as far as everything else, like, creating the videos and doing the website, and that, all that stuff was all me. And granted, there is a new video coming out that my filmer did edit, because he kind of wanted to take a stab at it. So that one's going to be released soon. So that one's pretty cool.
Man, that's really impressive, because it's a lot of work to get together one of these campaigns and to get it looking right and to make it look appealing. That's a lot of work. So I think that's really impressive, and it clearly shows. You had an incredible project so far. You still have 18 days to go. What was that like when you actually hit that launch button? Like, did you have some kind of plan here, or did it just kind of like take off the project?
I had a plan, but not everything fell into place, and I think that's kind of the best way to think about things is to not over plan and try to be completely tied to a schedule, because, or at least for this project, because you don't know which way it's going to go, and you don't know who you're going to talk to or what you're going to run into in the future. So I would say really the only thing that I didn't do is I didn't really reach out to press early on. And I imagine if I did and I had that all planned out, I'd probably be a little bit bigger than I am, because the one or two press publications that did pick up, or the few YouTube people that I spoke to, that did make a pretty big spike in my campaign. It got me it grossed about $200,000 of the campaign, I believe.
Jeez,
I mean, but
that's like half. Wow.
Yeah, but there's no way to actually really, I mean, we've even Indiegogo and stuff. It's all just hypothetical. Like, we don't really know for sure. I mean, we can see the traffic, but we don't know 100%, which is one of the things I think if you're really trying to figure out campaigns like this, I think getting all of the analytics, getting it all set up, which I do have it set up, but it could be set up better because I'm not an expert at it. Mm-hmm. I think if having that data would really help understand what's really working and where your dollars are going.
That's I think also one of the things there is the fact that there are multiple things at play. So like you talking about the influencers or the media mentions, maybe doing more of that. So maybe that brought like a fifth, or in the upper ends, maybe a half. I don't know.
Yeah.
We haven't tracked that. Doing more of that could have helped. What were some of the things you did do right, would you say? Did you do things like build up social media? Did you do an email list? What were the other things you did?
Yeah. So I think the biggest and most important thing is to build an audience and build kind of an awareness early, but you got to do it where you're not revealing too much and you kind of keep people on the edge of their seat. And that's hard to do, especially with a product that, if you can reveal a product pretty early on, and you reveal everything about it, then I think, your impact isn't going to be as strong when you launch. And one of the examples that I use, and I actually kind of, it was running pretty much at the same time. I was looking at what Atari was doing, and Atari launched, and after a few hours, I think they got $2 million. But exactly their strategy was to kind of hint at what they were doing. They had a very dark image of their product. They didn't really reveal what it looked like. They kind of gave very brief information about it, and they were just like, sign up now for more information. And they were getting, for about, I don't know, I think it was almost 4 or 5 months, they were just getting people's emails. Mm-hmm. And that's literally all they were doing. They were just getting signups of people. And then they hit the kind of go button with saying, hey, we're going to offer a discount to everybody who emailed. And that really helped get, so they sent off, an email that literally, and this is what we did, because Indiegogo was telling me this is how they were doing it. We sent off a blast email to our, 4,000 followers or fans and signups basically, and they all, I would say about half of them opened up the email right away, and they all went to our campaign and just backed it. So wow. I mean, not everybody. It was not 1,500 people, but I mean, we got close to, I think, 80 people who backed it out of 1,500, which is, I don't know the percentage on that, but it was a pretty decent conversion.
Yeah. So of those 80 people, what was that like responsible, like pledges wise? Would you say within like the first 3 days or so, the people that were backing it? Was this like, like 100K? Do you think they brought like 200K? Like
they brought close to 200. Yeah.
So that was a really effective strategy. Yeah.
That was within the first 24 hours. So
awesome, dude. Yeah, I think one of the things you mentioned, you touched on there, the fact that building this anticipation, when you sort of reveal too much, it almost like kills that anticipation, because we were like,
Oh
oh,
yeah.
so this is what it is, or like, oh, okay. Whereas it
And then when they
doesn't
see it,
maintain the
when they see it
curiosity.
again, yeah, when they see it again, they're not as excited. And I definitely learned that from the skateboard industry that I'm in. It's like it's the same thing with, you make a skateboard video for a bunch of, I mean, I think this is really the most basic way of describing it, because a skateboard video, I mean, you can show everybody the trick and, everybody's like, wow, that was exciting. Or you could build that anticipation that you're going to show, a series of tricks of a rider that everybody likes watching, and you only reveal maybe some of the stuff, and then you kind of just cut it short where people are left hanging and they want more.
Mm-hmm.
And that's literally the strategy, in my opinion. It's just it's pretty you'll see it across all types of marketing and all types of it's how people get it's how Hollywood gets you into the movie theater.
That's so true. Yeah, that's so true. I had to interrupt this podcast episode because I want to introduce you to my friends at the Gadget Flow. Their product discovery platform reaches 22 million people per month. They've helped more than 5,000 crowdfunding campaigns thus far, and they have a social media following of more than 700,000 followers. If you want to gain access to their marketplace and list your own product, you can go to thegadgetflow.com/submit and list your project today. Well, I have a few more questions for you, but before I do, I want to ask you just a little bit more about the motorbike that you created. And specifically, it seems to me, and this is just my perspective, it seems to me that you're sort of more of like the creative type or the inventor. Do you view yourself as an entrepreneur, like a business person? Like, are you looking to create this into a big business?
I am looking to create it into a big business, but I am seeking help, and at the moment, I'm getting a lot of help from the manufacturing side and the supply side, and eventually I'm going to need help from the business side of things. As far as me handling all of that, it's definitely stuff I can do right now, but as the business gets larger, there's going to be the customer service aspect of it, but there's also just the whole operations side of the business that I would definitely, I'm definitely be looking to hand that over to someone else.
So for you, for what you've been doing, creating and designing, what's been the most rewarding part of this so far? What's been really like the realization of your dream here? Because you've been working on this for a while.
I think the rewarding part of it right now at the moment is that it's something that it's proven to be a desired product. And I think a lot of people in my industry don't really see a product like this as something that could be successful. I think they are all pretty excited and amazed that something like this has kind of proven to be a product that people want. I think most people look at, in the industrial design world, they look at, products like Apple, and they look at products like, like a Sonos speaker, something that's really high end, really simple, beautiful, plastic molded design, or maybe aluminum CNC'd, but so it's really expensive, and the mold costs and the minimum order quantities that you would need have to be absolutely insane. Whereas a product like Onyx, it's designed to be able to be made, at the very minimum order quantity of 100. So you don't need to make thousands of these to be able to go into manufacturing, right? You only need to make 100, and you can scale it from there. And I think most industrial designers don't think like that. They think in the thousands and millions. And so, so that to them was kind of amazing. And for me to be able to prove that you can do something like that from the ground up, as opposed to coming in with, tons of investor money and, huge backing of people, I think it just kind of proved
It proved that point. Yeah, it proved the point that you set.
That you can do it. Yeah, and so but now I'm moving forward from that, obviously, and going into building it, and I'll have to get a number of people to help, do the assembly, and then, like you said, someone to help run the operations and that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, what do you think this is going to do in terms of changing your career? Because we're talking a little bit about some of like the skills that you've accumulated. You've had a really expansive skill set here, being able to put together this project. Seems like you've been working in a few different types of industries. How do you think this is going to change your career going forward?
Well, right now, I mean, it's already, from anyone that I talk to now who has viewed to, hire me at their business, for their business, they view me more of now as a creative lead as opposed to just an individual contributor. So I think that right there has changed my position almost immediately. So I'm not viewed as someone that can just do one thing, because depending on, if I was in an interview before this project, the potential employer would look at me and say, oh, hey, you're really good at this. You're not so good at this. So we're going to just put you into this bucket and have you do this for the next 2 years. Whereas I was always kind of saying, hey, I want to have my hand in everything and be able to help out with everything. And there was few employers that would actually see me as what I would call myself more of a hybrid designer, where I can kind of go between, the different, just between the different skill sets that you would find in the creative side of an agency or a corporation. Yeah. So I think at the very least, that's what I've noticed. But I don't know. It's still pretty early to see. I also don't really plan on going back to, working for, corporations or anything like that. I think I kind of found my spot in for a while where it's, helping businesses, grow and from a small size to something that is sustainable.
Yeah. I think too, the real test here is once you actually ship out this product and people are able to ride it and they're able to show it to their friends, I think there's tremendous potential there. Like you're going to get feedback on the product. You probably will have YouTubers wanting to use it and influencers reaching out to you because it looks really cool. So I think that's all you're going to see a lot of changes as well, not just only in the next 18 days, but also beyond that.
Oh, I mean, there's definitely a lot in the works already. I mean, Casey Neistat has reached out.
No way.
Yeah,
Really?
He reached out with an email that was just hilarious, where it was all misspelled words, like, "Oh my God, this is amazing! I need it." And and then we got Lamontos, which is a pretty cool musician artist, or pretty cool music artist that did Turbo Kid, and it's a kind of 80s retro 80s film about a BMX rider, and he did the whole soundtrack for that, and it's a pretty cool little movie that he reached out to offer us to be able to use his music on our videos. And I think that's kind of, I mean, if anybody knows that artist, that's a pretty big thing for us, which is amazing. And so I think just more things like that are going to happen kind of organically as we move forward. People are going to find us and they're going to be excited and they're going to want to help out.
Yeah. So you'll probably be invited to some cool parties in the future.
Yeah.
I'm speaking to the crowdfunders in the audience who have already launched a Kickstarter campaign, or have actually even successfully run a campaign. And the reason is, I think you will understand this pain point most. And that is, when you finally do raise money on Kickstarter or Indiegogo, the hardest part is not collecting the cash. The hardest part is shipping out all of those perks and rewards to your backers. It is a nightmare, my friends. It's a lot of spreadsheets, it's a lot of headache, and it's a lot of stress. That's why I recommend BackerKit. If you have not heard of BackerKit, they help you collect surveys, they help you collect data, and the entire fulfillment process is just so much easier and so many less spreadsheets when you use their software. You can check them out at backerkit.com and use CrowdCrux for a special discount. So where can people go to check out more about your Indiegogo campaign?
So you can go to Indiegogo and just type in Onyx Motorbikes, and you can find us in the, I think it's in the transportation side of Indiegogo. But if you just type in this, type it in on Google and you type in Onyx Motorbikes, I think it's the first link. And then just below that is our website, which is onyxmotorbikes.com. And that will give you more information on the product itself, because Indiegogo has kind of a word limit, so we can't really put everything in the campaign. And so if there's any questions or anything like that, we have our FAQ on our website, and all the details and specs of the product is on onyxmotorbikes.com.
Okay, and I'm looking here at your campaign. So it looks like you have 34 left of your featured perk also. So this is discounted? That's
discounted, and that one, we're doing a limited at this moment because
you only have one left of your other perk.
And that one's so the CTY, that one is incredibly limited. There's not a lot of traction on that. I think everybody who's buying this, they want the really fast, high powered one, and the smaller, kind of lower powered one. It's even lighter too. It's just there's not a lot of traction on it, so we've limited that to a very small number, and that one's almost sold out. And then as far as the RCR, the bigger one, that one, there's a number of them left, but I think we're going to cap it so that we're not over our heads building these for the next few months. And then it's also the manufacturing capabilities, because we're doing the frames in Illinois, and so the frames are going to be built in a series and get shipped out to us, and then we have to assemble them. So the capability, if we were able to reach 1 million, let's just say if we were able to reach 1 million before the end of the campaign, we could potentially grow the manufacturing facility in Illinois, but at this moment, they're capped at a certain number that they can actually do with the amount of money that we can provide them.
Yeah. I think that's probably a smart idea too, just limiting them, because manufacturing it's its own sort of set of complications. So I think that's really wise. You already hit your other stretch goal, so congratulations on that. So for those listening, you want to check out this campaign. It's ONYX Motorbikes. Just type it into Indiegogo. My last question for you here is, if you could go back in time and you could talk to yourself when you were just starting this process, this process of either thinking about crowdfunding or raising money, what would you tell yourself? It could be a final bit of advice. It could be a word of encouragement. It could be something you wish you could do differently. Can you share with the listeners what that would be?
So there was a couple things, but mainly there was a number of people that reached out that wanted to help, that I ended up helping, that are helping out with manufacturing right now. And I kind of, for a while there, I kind of pushed it off just because I wanted to, wait to show them the very best product and really kind of have like everything figured out. And I think that, although everything's working out, I think that it would have been nice to have those people on board even earlier, because then things wouldn't feel as rushed. Some things, can feel a little rushed if you're trying to figure them out quickly. And so I feel my advice would to say, hey, don't worry about what people are going to think, and just put your best foot forward and get in those conversations earlier, because it'll make things a lot easier. But you never know. It's one of those things. I don't know if you had, you don't know what people are going to think. First impressions are a big thing. And so you have to do a good job,
Was there another one that came to the top of your mind? Cause you mentioned a few of them. Just wanted to make sure we got that in also.
Yeah. So, just some of the engineering challenges and things like that, working with engineers early and getting advice is always helpful. I kind of tried to do a lot of it myself in the beginning, and without really, consulting engineers on things. And then I definitely got in touch with a number of my engineering friends, and then we figured that out. But I feel like getting that stuff, because that did prolong it a couple years by just not touching base with engineers earlier, because I spent a lot of time trying to figure something out that I probably could have figured out with an engineer much faster.
Yeah.
And then, there was just having conversations with people to help out, like bigger agencies. I feel like some of those were great experiences, but also at the same time, I felt like they were sort of kind of spinning my wheels. And in the end, if I had gone with them, I would have lost a lot of money to working with large agencies. So I'm glad that I didn't do that and get sucked into that. So I think that if looking back, it's just the advice would be to not really spend as much time as I did trying to, get a big agency to help me, because in the end, they would have taken almost all of the money. I would have been in a pretty bad spot.
Well said. So. It seems like you had a pretty good idea of what you needed to do, and also the skills to pull it off. So it didn't seem like you needed that help as much. Well, this is awesome.
And I did get some advice from other industrial designers. They saying, you don't need to work with them. Don't work with them. And I kind of was like, why are they saying this to me? And I, just listening to your colleagues and things like that give you advice, you should, listen to them, because they have an outside perspective that I think is important to listen to. And I mean, you don't have to take their word, but you can at least try to see why they're saying that and understand their feedback.
Well said. Well said. Well, Timothy, thank you so much for coming on the show, sharing all of that great information. Look forward to watching your progress over the next, 17, 18 days and everything that you have in store.
Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Crowdfunding Demystified Podcast. Again, my name is Salvador Briggman. Hope you take a second to dive into some of my other shows that are out there. Hope you get a lot of value out of it. Really, every single episode, I learn something new, whether it's a new strategy to apply, whether it's a mindset, whether it's what it's actually like to run one of these campaigns, being up late, having to invest and really put yourself on the line there. That's very difficult for many people, putting yourself out there. I always love talking with entrepreneurs. I love helping and coaching entrepreneurs. And that's why I offer this program for you, this one-off coaching consulting session, where basically you can come in, you can get all of your questions answered, you can feel 100% certain going out of that call, you know what to focus on, you have action items going forward, maybe you have a little bit of homework in terms of what you have to do. But most importantly, you know that you're on the right path. You know that this is a strategy that's going to work, and maybe some of the things that I also add into that, some things that you have to do before you launch, you'll be way more better positioned for success after that call. So if you want to schedule a call with me, you can just go to crowdcrux.com/coaching. That is crowdcrux.com/coaching. Just enter some of the questions there. I have some questions for you. Just have to provide your answers, give me a little bit more information about your project, and then we can schedule that call and we can get this underway. I'm excited to work with you if you are interested in that. But if not, no worries. Go and dive into some of the other episodes that are out there on this show. I promise that you're going to like it a lot. And without further ado, I'll see you next time.